from an internal perspective, it's growth. The personal growth makes every aspect of my life better with every step forward I take. And so that I can't think of anything that's more meaningful, because then I have more capacity for other people. I have more forgiveness. I have more fun. I have more generosity. I have more space.
Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. One of the things I have loved most in my 25-year recruiting career has always been the stories that people tell. Stories of leadership, career choices, company ideas, and team building. My inspiration for starting the What Fuels You podcast came from being curious about people's lives and wanting to help share their stories. What path brought them to this place? What decisions did they make that led to failures and successes? Who influenced those decisions, and what lessons were learned along the way? I hope you enjoy the What Fuels You podcast. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Anna Gudmundson. Anna has been a senior tech business leader in the international high-growth scene for 15 plus years. Her present-day focus is on transformational technologies which impact the world in a significant positive way, while also having a strong commercial viability. As CEO of Sensate, a consumer stress management technology company, she is tackling one of the biggest challenges of our time, stress and mental health. Apart from a passion for technology business, Anna has a huge curiosity for personal growth and the human potential, both in what she produces and how she leads. Anna leads Sensate to mobilize cutting-edge science and technology informed by wisdom drawn from old traditions and practices to bring greater calm and consciousness to our current overstressed world. Anna, so good to see you. I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire. Thanks for being here. You get hit with the hard stuff first.
All right, thanks.
Okay, cool. I know that do you sing a little bit?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you sing? For some reason thought like,
oh wow.
You're like, ruh-roh, here we
go. Okay, well, I sing in the car maybe. I did actually sing in a choir for 20 years. Yeah, from 7 to 27. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so my first rapid fire question is, what's your karaoke song?
Okay, so I don't actually particularly like karaoke, but I have to admit I did sing in the car yesterday karaoke style, and I did sing "Oh Darling" by the Beatles.
Oh, great. The Beatles.
Because you can kind of sing really loud to that one, and that was the energy I needed.
And I know that you're a world traveler and have lived all over, so I'm curious, what's your favorite city?
Favorite city? Well, I did spend 16 years of my life in London, and I think when you're young and early career and meeting people from all over the world, it is an amazing city. So every part has its different stage. I'm really happy in Los Angeles right now, but I'm living with my boyfriend, his two teenagers and a dog, and it's a very different lifestyle. But I think London is a very dynamic and very exciting city.
I love London too. Is there an app that you cannot live without?
An app I cannot live without. Oh gosh, it would have to be my calendar. What else? I have various meditation apps that I use quite frequently, but yeah, I live by my calendar, and I'm an absolute calendar wizard, managing time zones, managing how I set up the days and everything. Yeah.
What are 3 words that your friends would use to describe you?
Wow. I'm probably energetic, maybe driven, and I have to say a few friends had said I'm a bit alien, so I might have to throw that in there as well.
What makes you alien? That's not the rapid fire part, but now I'm curious.
I don't think, this is a common thing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs in general feel like they didn't really fit in, that there's something kind of different about you, and thinking different about things. I think there's also an aspect of me which is really into mathematics, quantum physics, multidimensionality as a very natural way of perceiving the world, which actually interestingly ties into Sensate, because obviously we're working with energy and frequency, which is the universe, also understood by Tesla and Einstein and so on for a long time, but we don't really got there yet on that sort of mass level. I don't know. I think those might be some aspects, but I'm a little bit puzzled myself. There are actually how many times they sort of I know it's an alien, but more meaning like she's like different in some way.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I actually am very 50-50. So, and sort of that is by the definition, like what generates energy for you. So I do need my internal time. I find a lot of energy and grounding and intelligence from deep, quiet time and meditation. But I also love being around people who are alive. Just being out where people are laughing and having a good time and dancing is just like I really soak up that energy. And I love people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And what are you most thankful for? I'm asking you this like as Thanksgiving is approaching.
Oh yeah, gosh, I actually do three things I'm grateful for every day. It's hard to. I'm grateful for. Okay, I'll say one thing. I am grateful for having found and chosen when I was younger to grow and evolve. Because life is just better every day from um, working on myself, from investing in myself. So that whole aspect, and for me, it's like I have a message to the world, which is neuroplasticity is real. Like I wasn't born the way I am today at all. I got here. I had insecurities. I procrastinated. I had all sorts of other issues, which now I'm a completely different person. Don't think I would have recognized myself, and that's all based on like almost like this because I was also a software engineer once upon a time, and so it's code. I'm like, oh, I got a bug here. Like this is an inefficient part of my code. Like, how do I fix this? And it's all fixable. It's really quite fascinating. I think there is something that is our true essence, but in terms of anything, any pattern we have in our lives that are not helpful, that's just bug in the code, and it's totally reprogrammable. So I think I'm most grateful for that because it really makes my life constantly better.
I love that. You know that I've never asked that question on the podcast, but I was just in that mindset because of Thanksgiving. And I'm curious about your gratitude practice. So do you write it down or do you just say it out loud, or where do you track your gratitude?
I write it down. So I have a process where I wake up in the morning. I do a little bit of breath work. It's quite short. And then I write down three things I'm grateful for and my intention for the day. And also then I either do a little bit of journaling depending on how early morning calls I have, or I just look at what are the most important things I need to get done today, and that's more sort of work related. But sometimes it's literally I have to get my ass to the gym today, if the day before has not manifested in that way. So yeah, it's part of my morning routine.
Yeah. Okay. So you're sounding like too good to be true. So this question is perfect now. What is the what is the habit that you're trying to break?
Okay, so first of all, routine is really difficult for me. I have definitely a very strong innate driver towards diversity. I am extremely curious and an explorer. So I've lived in many countries. I've traveled around the world on my own. And so routine is actually not very natural to me. So in general, I struggle to keep routines. And even with what I'm saying that I'm doing every day, I skip it quite often. I do get back to it, which for me is good enough. But in general, for example, right now, one of my worst things is I sit for way too many hours in a row, and having being our product is used by many longevity people, and so I'm acutely aware that sitting still for hours on end is really bad for longevity. It also reduces the oxygen to the brain, and that, like, I need to break that habit. I need to get up and just do a few stretches or a few jumping jacks, or whatever it is. It's not really hard. And one I would love to do is dance on my own for one tune. I think that is a practice that provides extreme amount of longevity, actually. But it's proven that with music and dancing, it's one of the best practices. So it's not just, and it also from a creativity perspective and the brain, I think we need to take that seriously. There's more than enough evidence, plus it's fun. But that's
I was going to say, maybe we should like walk and talk, although I have questions in front of me. I would remember them though. I just want to get to know you better because I love talking to leaders in general, especially female leaders. And I also love the product. I'm really into wellness. I have a lot of things I follow and listen to. Of course, if you actually like do them is a whole other part of it. Half of it is just doing them. So I love it. Where did you learn all this from? Like, you said kind of, I was here and I believe that I've kind of grown and evolved over time. Let's start from the beginning. So where are you from? And tell me about your family and kind of story origin.
Right. Yeah. So I was born in the north of Sweden. My parents are actually more in the arts. My dad is a musician and a professional photographer, and been reasonably well recognized for his work there. And my mother is an actor and has also never been without work her entire career, mainly stage. So I grew up with writers and singers and directors and actors. And I think that scene is very, very different in Sweden to Los Angeles. I think
Yes.
here it's a lot of you go big. If you're working on stage in the north of Sweden, it's because you love your job. You love what you're doing. You love getting up in front of people every night. So I think it was not a toxic environment at all. It was people who were really living their soul dream and loved what they did. So I did see people who were really living their passions, I think, growing up. I also spent an extended time in Africa as a child with my mother. It was a very forming experience. I had the opportunity to stay for extended times in a village on the countryside in Africa and really experience what almost like the origins of human life was about, where there was no crime, first of all. Everyone is looked after. There is no exclusion, bullying, like any of those things. There's a sense of village, a lot of clapping, drumming, dancing, which obviously is extremely good for the nervous system. We're now learning the science behind all of this. And also just the experience of being in such a different environment and knowing from the core of my bones that we're all the same. It's not an intellectual view on race. It's an experienced knowing that we are all the same, because I was 5 years old and I played with the other 5-year-olds and that was it. So I think I'm very grateful for that experience. It really expanded my views and my understandings, but also just a sense of belonging with everyone. We're really all the same. So that's what's
that message is so important right now. And the world is just so fractured. Yes. And
yeah,
it's terribly sad and depressing. And I love that message. So outside of your parents, who sound like they were, extremely influential and formidable in your upbringing, did you have teachers or mentors or people who were kind of cheering you on?
So I have actually not been blessed with that many mentors in my life. And I have to ask, like even my parents and people around, like, where does this come from? Because I definitely had some internal drive. And I bought the first computer to the family when I was in school. They auctioned, old computers from the university in the city where I grew up, and I went and bought a computer. So I was always very interested in technology and always what's new and happening. So throughout my life now, I can see a thread that I was always drawn to exploring new macro trends, and that definitely is a thread. And I went on to then study maths and physics and computer science and a lot of those things, as well as business and organization. But that definitely, that exploration and interest I've just always had, and some kind of natural attraction to math and technology. And I think also growing up in the north of Sweden, I didn't feel like I can't do that because I'm a girl. So I feel very grateful for that as well, that there weren't too strong gender roles implied on me, and that I had the freedom to kind of just pursue what I wanted. But I think there are still external values. For example, I was also very talented in music and art, and for me, I think I kind of stopped doing all those things. I stopped I was playing all the instruments and everything because I didn't see it was valuable for my career. And obviously now I wish I would have continued playing some of the instruments and have that, because it gives so much joy. And again, it is actually good for your health. It's good for 100%. A lot of different.
Well, you're dancing, you're listening to music and dancing. So that's good. You're scratching that itch in that way. But I get it. I totally agree. I'm like, why did we quit? No, I didn't play a lot of instruments, but I think all of us took music lessons of some sort at some point. That's great. So tell me, you grew up there, and you said a small town are you still in touch with your friends from growing up? And I guess when they see your life, are they like, oh yeah, of course that's what she's doing? Or is that a surprise? What would they have thought you would have been doing?
Yeah, so I'm in touch with a few, mainly from high school, and actually quite a bit. Like we have a group on Signal, and it's pretty active. So I'm still with just a few of the really good friends, and also blessed to have had really good both sort of friends, male and female friends. So really good buddies from that time. I think that they are not particularly surprised. They're definitely not surprised that I moved abroad and that I'm doing something more challenging and brave and didn't just go into a sort of 9 to 5. I think no one's surprised about that. I think there were some people that thought that I would be a politician or some kind of famous for something. So those are kind of things that, I remember people saying when I was high school, which at that point I had no idea. I had didn't even consider it. I was just, what's the one next thing? And that was learning French in France, which I did right after high school. So I think probably not super surprised.
Yeah. And where did you end up attending college, and what did you end up studying? I'm always curious how people make those decisions. It feels like such a big choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. So first of all, right after high school, the one subject I sucked at high school was French. So I'm like, damn it, I spent all this time, I'm going to learn French. So it's very common in Sweden. It's, I think, more common than not that people take a gap year after high school before they go to university. Some people just travel, some people go and work, like just pick apples in Australia or like random things, but just to get some life experience before you start university. I chose to go to Dijon in Bourgogne and study French. So I studied French the first semester and studied in French the second semester. So learned French there, and then I sort of did more of the IT, and then I actually got a master's degree in science of IT engineering. And so that was in the 90s that I started, and it was a very exploding industry at that time. And again, going back to my thread, and even the master's degree in science of IT engineering was only, I think, 2 or 3 years old. Before that, you did have computer science, but and I think there are two aspects. It was definitely partly passion driven. I do love those subjects, but then it was also something that I could envision a career in and doing something useful in.
What would the career have been? And looking back, was it necessary to get a master's, or is that just kind of the natural next thing?
We are sort of an arty but also academic family, so I think studying was always a natural thing. University is free in Sweden for Swedish people, so I didn't depend on getting a massive student loan like over here. And you even get a small student loan just to sustain yourself while you're studying. So it really means that it doesn't matter what family you're from, you can go to university in Sweden if you want to. So it was quite natural to do that. The degree was really put together to be the leaders of the IT industry in Scandinavia. So you know, Ericsson, Nokia, Skype, all these companies that came out of there in the 90s and onwards. And you know, in a way, I've ended up working in exponential technology fields, not in, well, I worked in large companies as well. It was actually at Alcatel, Lucent Technologies originally back in the day, but otherwise done a lot of early stage as well, and sort of very new markets.
And so tell me, what school was it, and how did you choose? Like, what were you looking at? Because in the US, it's like, you know, I've got a kid in college and one that's about to go to college, and every family has their, you know, limits and approaches and attitudes about it. Who was guiding you through all of that?
I think I did not have an enormous amount of guidance, actually. I like with these decisions, I've just been very confident. Like I've known, and same thing when I moved to London. It was like, it was never, why is this good for my career? It's like, I'm moving to London and I moved to London. So that is, I can't tell you why, but those things that just sort of really had some kind of internal drive. But what I did look at, there was actually one degree, which was industrial design, which was at the university in the city where I grew up. And that one was really interesting to me, but I did not want to stay in my own city.
Yeah, you
Where
wanted
my
to
parents
travel and
were.
explore.
Yes. So Uppsala University is over 600-year university in Sweden. It's where Carl von Linnaeus also went and so on. So it's in a city called Uppsala. It's, I think, fourth biggest city in Sweden, just north of Stockholm. And so it's an old, very good university. And this degree was new. So it was really exciting to me with all these new subjects. And at the same time, it's an amazing student life because the university has been in the city for so long. All the buildings are at the center of the city, and there's a lot of traditions and so on. And I had an absolutely amazing time there. There is also, I think it's about 30,000 students and a lot of international students and researchers. So it's like the culture is amazing.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I love learning about different countries and just the education systems. And I didn't realize it was free. That just, when I hear these things, I just got back from Canada from this like women's retreat, and we had this big discussion about maternity leave, and I didn't know theirs was 18 months. And of course, we're like 3 months, like barely scratching. It's just, every country is so different.
Yeah. No, on that topic,
also
in Sweden, that there is maternity and paternity leave.
Yeah,
and you can't just hand it over.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden that shifts everything, because it's totally natural for a dad to stay at home as well. And then all these issues that are women's issues just become issues that need to get resolved. And so I think, those kind of incentives actually are really important to shift some of the problems I see over here. Yeah,
100%. So I loved watching kind of the pattern of your career and seeing kind of the journey that brought you to Sensate. But I'm curious about the earliest days, right out of college. Like, what was your first job out of school, and what direction were you going at that point?
Yeah, so I actually, my project, I did a first sort of work, but project also as sort of the end of my degree, where I went to Madrid and at a lab at the Polytechnical University of Madrid, where I developed a 3D programming language. So it was part research project, but that was very hardcore technical. Then I moved to London, and after having actually written a grammar for a programming language, and so defined a whole grammar and coded that in a schema, and then programmed the interpreter into a 3D rendering engine in C, then I couldn't get a programming job in London because I don't look like a programmer. Apparently, this actually bumped into a couple of people that I interviewed later on, and they said like, I just I couldn't see you as a programmer. So I ended up getting a coordinator role, and very, very rapidly, I think I was promoted before 6 months at Lucent Technologies, and then sort of very rapidly went into managing complex technical projects at Lucent Technologies, and then shifted towards the non-existing but just evolving mobile industry. So it was before the iPhone, and started to develop some new and innovative applications in that field.
And you worked for a few companies. Which one was kind of the most formidable as far as, now you're creating a culture, you're directing an entire, leadership team, you're fundraising. There's so much that goes into leading a company, and we all pull from different experiences. Like which job in your past kind of prepared you most for this role?
So probably the more recent ones, because I've been more senior. So at some point, obviously, I've learned from other people, and I think I'm very grateful to have worked both in gigantic companies and startups and everything in between, because you learn how all different aspects of the business work.
Yeah.
So that's been extremely helpful. Also, I would probably say that I also worked as an independent consultant for venture-backed companies, and that was an extremely good accelerator, because I've always been fast at processing and learning, but just getting methods for, okay, this is this new field. I give myself a week to know what I need to know. And so many of the clients that I worked with, like, how do you not understand this much after 1 week? It's because I actually, from not doing just one business, but then I would go in and do projects, I developed my own methods of how
Right.
to really learn fast and really identify what are the things I need to deeply understand in order to understand this industry, this business model, this company, this culture, what's not working. So very quick. It's both who I am. I'm not extremely good at retaining information. There are like things like I'm not extremely detail oriented. I can more set myself up in the areas I need to. But that to kind of just like, what are all the different things I need to understand here, from both interpersonal to assumptions to culture to hardcore numbers or technology. And so identifying that and then just like going straight in, I really developed sort of my own method to do that that worked really well for me. So that way of approaching problems and learning, I think, is extremely valuable.
Oh, definitely. And can help you show up in such a different way as a leader because you can draw from so many different experiences. At what point did you say kind of like, I have it in me and I want to be an entrepreneur?
I don't know that there ever was a point. I kind of more like slipped into it. Same thing as in general, managing people has kind of just happened. I've not particularly sorted it, but it's just kind of happened. So I see it as very natural based on who I am, and my extreme drive for exploring, pioneering, seeing what's next, and macro trends and all of that. It's very natural that I would have ended up here. But it was never a decision. I think like those kind of decisions, I want to be an entrepreneur, have more to do with identity. Who do I want to be? And for me, it never came from that. It's just such of a natural place for me to land based on my interests. And I mean, to be honest, like the consulting suited me well as well, because like I got to just like fed so much learning, so much growth in so little time. I think what doesn't suit me is doing the same thing year on end. That doesn't suit my personality.
Too mundane. Yeah, totally. So tell me about Sensate. Like how did you come up with the name? And tell me about your co-founder, Stefan. How did you meet?
Yeah, so name precedes me. So Stefan Schmelik, wonderful human being, was the founder of the New Medicine Group in Harley Street, London. So very prominent and leading integrated healthcare clinic. And I knew of the clinic long before we were introduced. I was living in London at the time. It's very well known. And we were introduced by several people. It was this thing where like, he's like, who is this Anna Gudmundson? And I'm like, why are people introducing me to this Stefan guy? And I was actually selling a public company at the time. So I was very stressed and said like, hey, I think you're an amazing person. Let me see if I can help you. Maybe take an advisory role, but I really don't have much time right now. So fast forward, there were two reasons, both because I wanted to help him. And I think, he is a practitioner. So in terms of business and scaling a tech company or any of that, right? So I could see that he needed help. And then I thought I was interested in the product mainly from my geekiness, because I do think that we're entering a paradigm of really understanding reality as vibration. Again, the alien geeky side of me. And so I'm interested in real life applications of that. So it was more, well, I didn't particularly see this as potentially a global, global brand company that is going to change millions of lives. But then I got to help him on an advisory plus a little contracting basis on the side to get the first product to market, and I got to test both commercial viability, and then I was absolutely blown away by the usage numbers and retention, because that's actually something I didn't expect. And I've worked in wellness tech and fitness tech, and the challenging thing, and I love humans, but it's also kind of understanding and have humility for where most of us are at. As a population, we're generally away from driven. It means that we avoid pain instead of striving towards goals.
Yes.
And it's a small percentage of us that like are driven towards making better, making the world better, making ourselves better. Generally, it's kind of, I just want to avoid pain and the away from drivers, the sort of painkiller. And it's very difficult to get people to change behaviors. So I'm used to having evolved through the whole mobile era with all the, gamification and habit creating features and all of these things. And you still in habit changing when it comes to wellness, looking after yourself, meditation, fitness programs, diets, all of that, you get single digit retention. It's like the vast majority within 30 days are gone. And there's a small percentage that make it through and actually create any sustainable change at all. So I was used to that and looked at our 90-day retention for that first batch that we've sold online. And I'm like, yeah, guys, the retention numbers are 10x normal. There's something wrong with the numbers. You got to fix how we're tracking data. And lo and behold, that was not the case. It was I'd never seen anything like it. And I really realized that this could change millions of lives. And this is a problem that is mainly unresolved. People are stressed and anxious. It's causing us all sorts of physical disease. It also makes us not conscious beings. When we activate the stress response, we actually disconnect the prefrontal cortex or suppress the connection in order to survive. And that is our conscious mind, our empathy, our problem solving, our executive functions, all of that. So with a population that's constantly stressed, our systems don't function. We are not looking after each other. We're, bullying our neighbors instead of helping our neighbors. And so that was, really, really important driver for me as well. And I went on to take a board director role. And then I went on to co-found the company. Actually, it took several months until I agreed to take the CEO role. But then I really knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you had proof of concept. It's like the perfect scenario. It's like high risk, but not so crazy high risk because you've already gotten to see that there's some traction. Yep. What was the go-to-market strategy at that point and how has it changed over time?
So I was, again, initially really just interested in testing and getting viable data. And so I think what a lot of companies do, because their main thing is like, I just need to validate that this product works because I want to know that the product works. Whereas I'm like, I want to know if the product doesn't work, because then, we should really position this as a niche product or whatever. So we sold primarily with broad messaging on Facebook and could really see that we were able to sell the product that way. Consequently, I also wanted to see that was scalable. It is not the easiest, shortest route, but it's the one that's going to matter. So I personally wanted to know if this isn't going to be a mass market product. I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste other people's money. So if this is a small product for specialized clinics, then let's find out and let's choose a different funding strategy, a different go-to-market strategy. But I want to know, is this going to save us from stress and anxiety? So I'm going to test the hard route. But then actually we've been really successful in that. So we have done a lot of paid search, paid social, but now we also start to have a lot of partners and we're on a whole bunch of online retailers. We sell direct on our website, but we also do have a whole bunch of smaller practitioners and clinics that are using the product in combination with other interventions. And that it goes anything from a cancer clinic using it to IBS to whatnot. And the common denominator there is it's extremely hard to heal from almost anything if we can't calm the autonomic nervous system. If we continuously activate the stress response, we suppress the immune system. So no matter what else you're doing, if you're suppressing your immune system and also actually activate the stress response, also suppresses digestion. If we're trying to heal from IBS or any other issues, it's gonna just make it very difficult. And so a lot of practitioners are finding that including Sensate that their patients or clients can use at home between visits or in combination with their interventions, make their interventions more better outcome and more successful.
And do you have any like B2B to C, or it's just straight B2C? And if people want to get it, they're just like consumers listening, is it just getsensate.com?
Yes, so getsensate.com. We're on Amazon, we're in Walmart, we're in Spree, where else?
And can you ship anywhere?
We ship to a lot of countries. And again, that's actually been the strategy, that we try to ship to as many places as possible. If it doesn't work because of customs or it doesn't get there and so on, we close down those countries. But we're taking the approach of, if people are finding us and want to buy it, let's allow that, so we can serve as many as possible. But we're, from a marketing perspective, US is the largest market and really the prime focus for our marketing. UK is also pretty big, but we do try to deliver product to as many countries as we can.
That's amazing. And so tell me a little bit more about the device. Obviously, you're at the very forefront of, wellness. I guess, would you say you're in the wellness space?
Yeah, wellness tech. Yes, absolutely.
Wellness tech.
Yeah.
A couple questions. One, do you have competitors? Two, how much does the device cost? And then I want to get into kind of specifically the science and kind of what it does to our brains and our bodies.
Okay, great. Yeah, like the product is, so it's a device, and you get a number of sessions for free. I think 15, that you can use as many as possible, as many times as you like, for forever. And then there is also a subscription, that, because we have a very frequent user base, so they also typically get the Plus subscription, which is $49 per year right now. And the, as I mentioned, product is $299. So competitors, great question. So actually, we call them family. So here's the deal. It's very much relating to our culture as well. Collaboration over competition. It is an abundant market. There is absolutely no need for us to elbow around us in a small pond. This is a massive ocean. Everyone is stressed and anxious, and people will need and prefer different tools. There are some people that are somewhere on the level where they're seeking ascension in this lifetime. There are some people that are clinically depressed. We're not really for either of them, but for a lot of people in between. And then there are preferences. I mean, there are people that find, potentially other products are more suitable for them. I feel very confident about Sensate based on what we're seeing, both through research and most importantly, if it wasn't working, it's extremely difficult to get people to change behaviors in this field. If it wasn't working, people would do it. So we and also, just if people aren't feeling genuinely some relief or stress from using the product, they don't come back to using it. So that's giving a lot of confidence in what I wanted to see, because you can have a lot of products that do great in lab environments, but people don't use it at home. And if people are use it at home, it has zero effect on anyone, on society, on them or their families, right? So that was like the one thing as well I wanted to validate. And then, there's also there more sort of vagus nerve stimulation devices in the medical space that are FDA regulated. They're not wellness products, they're health products. It's not really competition. And then we have a whole bunch of biohack products as well. Happy Apollo, what did we, a Muse band, this is like a lot of different products that I see often complementary. Like we have people that have a Muse band and send us their readings, but I think there's something about the simplicity of Sensate and that it really works for people. And I think it's because we're tapping into something that the body does anyway, and that we've done for thousands of years, which is getting low frequency vibration into the chest area. The reason we in yoga is to tone the vagus nerve. That's what it's for. So, like this is not new. We're just activating something that is natural to the body. Infrasonic waves is like cat purrs infrasonic waves. So it's like buying your own cat purr device for humans, love that. Right?
Well, yeah, like, or when you just, that feeling of, complete relaxation, comfort, ease, and kind of almost going into a completely different state. So how does the science of it work?
So you place the little pebble on your sternum, the chest bone, and you put on your own headphones, and then you just open the app, turn on the Sensate pebble, and it connects automatically, and you start a session within the app. What then happens is that you'll hear sound, it's like music, coming through the ears, and you will actually feel the purr. But this is infrasonic waves. It's not vibration like in a vibrator or something like that. It's infrasonic waves, but you'll feel them. And some people feel it like really vibrating through the whole body. For some people, it's not, but it does go through your body, because that's the magic of sonic waves. It's energy that travels through matter. So what's also interesting is, and so again, it's kind of like alming, right? The vagus nerve. Now, we're doing this with the hypothesis of toning the vagus nerve because, again, that's what the tradition is for. But we haven't put a test where we've put a little device onto the vagus nerve and showed that that's what's happening. But like, I think everyone knows that that's how things work.
Right.
But anyway, not making claims.
Yeah.
But again, we've been doing this for thousands of years. And I think like a lot of people recognize that as a sort of no-brainer. But anyway, we have the infrasonic frequencies in the chest area and the sound, and they're also harmonized. And so again, going back to now, we look at things like cymatics, we look at the patterns, and also I've studied signal processing and just like what happens with like when you send signals in and frequencies in harmony and or dissonance, right? And you can look at that on a cellular level. We know, for example, from Harvard medicine using ultrasound, which is also sonic waves, but how heart cells self-organize into beautiful patterns based on what frequencies you set. And so this is like in a way just opening up a whole bunch of things that were already there. And the body is built, the chest area is already built to create resonance. That's obviously what opera singers use to create projection. And with alming, we have to learn to get the frequency down into the chest. So we get this, and I've actually I've done it in group for an hour and really practicing to get the vibration into the chest area, and you feel euphoric. It's like also
I literally cannot wait to try it. So are you targeting I guess all ages, all genders?
Absolutely. And it's been very deliberate. I think it would have been disappointing to me if we had tested and found out that like white yoga women were the best group, because that would have been very boring. And I'm saying that because I'm one of them. But I don't care about my own demographic. It was like, no, I wanted this to be much wider and be really applicable, and also be applicable for people that don't already have these practices. If you already know how to meditate and you're doing yoga, you have some way to self-regulate. The vast majority of the population have no way to self-regulate. So it was very exciting to see that both in research in terms of customer exploration, larger questionnaires, all of those, but also from even marketing data, that we're actually attracting the best performing audience is wide. So we are really reaching people of genders, ages. We skew slightly older on consumer tech, so we're not attracting so many teenagers, but we have a lot of teenagers that are using it because their parents bought it for them. So I think it's more about like the purchase decisions and price and things like that. But yeah, we have almost 50-50 men and women, which is also very exciting. And really people from all walks of life.
I think you could like positively impact. This is really a game-changing product, because you could change like so many things, addiction and obesity. Like think about people when they're all the stress and all of the diseases that are linked to high cortisol. Yeah.
No, stress is a killer for sure. I think we know that's sitting still and stress. There are a lot of things, but that's it is absolutely crucially important. So I think I lost my thread.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, I was asking more about like why people would have returned it, and you're just saying like in the beginning it was more the kind of product issues. But now that you've kind of solved those, are there people who just say, really great product, I just am not disciplined enough to do it every day, or I kind of stare at it but don't actually do it?
Yeah. So covered like, okay, onboarding needs to be better. Some people don't actually understand how to use it and send it back. Not that many, but it happens. We need to fix that. And then if people have actually tried and used it, they typically don't return it, because if it worked for them when they had stress, and then in 2 weeks, they have no stress, that's fine. What we're finding is that just knowing that I have something at home that will help me when I feel stressed is a huge value. And so what's very important from a selling perspective, and what you were talking about here with all these different gadgets, everyone in marketing knows the difference between a painkiller and a vitamin. And exactly. So this is mainly a painkiller, right?
Yes.
But it's also a vitamin. So we also had the longevity people, the entrepreneurs, the all the optimizers, health optimizers, biohackers, all of that, they use the product for optimize, and they will have this thing, I need to remember to use my Sensate, because they're actually not stressed. Whereas the vast majority of our users use it because they really need it. And that is actually the core of our users. Now, you and I, of course, we have stress, we might feel anxious sometimes, and sleep, whatnot. So the use case you were talking about is my use case. And it's not what I recommend, but it's literally how do I get more work done in a day, which is not what I recommend for people. But I hit a wall in the afternoons, and that's where
Yeah, it's just crazy.
easy. Yeah, it's easy to, grab another coffee or
100%.
or whatnot. So and then or some sugar, what is it? And I've really learned that a Sensate session is the thing that works for me. If I sleep, I lose too much time, and like if I actually fall asleep, I'm gone. And
That's me. That's exactly me.
And I can't meditate because, no surprise, I'm in the middle of my workday. I have so many follow-ups, threads, processes going in my head. I'm not able to get into a meditative state if I have a half an hour break. So in that half an hour, instead I do a Sensate session. If I'm sleep deprived, I will sit with the lanyard. If I'm not sleep deprived, I will lie down. I have my favorite sessions that are so a forest and sunrise are the ones that I personally do when I don't want to fall asleep, and they're both like just 10 minutes. And it's almost
so
like,
is it music?
Yes, it's the sessions. They are between 10 and 30 minutes, and you can choose whichever one you want.
And how many options are there?
So there are 15 free, and then I don't know how many are in the Plus subscription at this point, probably 30 or something.
Yeah.
And you can use them. Some people love to use, especially for sleeping, the same one every night. So before sleeping, so that's very common as well, that people have their favorite sleeping session that they do before sleeping every night. And for me, what's interesting is that, I have all these things going on, but when I do a Sensate session, it's almost like the thoughts just go into the background, like some background noise.
Great.
And then I get this nervous system relaxation, and I come out of it. And of course, you're taken down the pace, right? So your heart rate is lowered, all of that. So you are relaxed when you come out of it. It only takes a few minutes, and I will have more focus. I will not grab that extra coffee. And so I'm very much noticing the difference in my ability to then have focus and feel good and enjoy working and long hours as I do.
I'm so excited to try it. Okay, so how did you end up funding the business, and how much did you raise, and what stage are you at right now as far as your growth and fundraising?
Yeah, so we're just closing a round. If there are any conscious entrepreneurs and people are interested in this field, I would love to talk. And prior to this round, we've only raised a total of 6.4 million, and that's with over 13 million in total revenues to date. So the ratio, which is a great ratio to have 1-to-1, we actually have 2-to-1 in terms of twice as much in revenues than we raised to date. So we've been able to turn that investment into a lot of traction, a lot of revenues. We will finish this round and do the last required to get to profit as a scale round next, and then any futures would be strategic, any acquisitions or anything like that. But we're actually getting there.
That's exciting. And so, do you have patents on the technology?
Yes, we do. We have granted patents. There's a couple of regions we're still pending, which covers the whole the harmonization, the synchronization, the device on the chest area, and also actually a couple of future features.
That's amazing. And so I also read that I'm kind of bouncing around here, but that's how my brain works, and I think that's how yours works too. So this is good. We're both like I read that the device activates the parasympathetic nervous system, but also can help lower blood pressure and improve heart rate variability. And so for people, is there anyone that shouldn't use this? Like if you do have high blood pressure or you have had a stroke or something, are you not a potential customer, or can anyone use it?
So first of all, we don't actually make any medical claims at all. I think, there are a lot of people that have used the product and also writing and telling other people about it for particular things, apparently, including long COVID and POTS. We have made no claims, no testing, no research in that field whatsoever. And also we always recommend, check with your doctor. There's also an aspect where this is, infrasonic waves, subaudable frequencies. Even Bach actually has composed some of his cathedral music with subaudable frequencies. So some of the big organs have subaudable frequencies because you get this sense of awe when you're sitting in church and you feel like you've been
totally
touched by higher spirits.
Yes.
And that's infrasonic waves. So it's very natural to the body. So it's hard to see that it would have any negative effects. My co-founder Stefan will note down any effects that anyone ever reports, but there's no consistency. So obviously, when you do come into your body, which is so important in order to reduce stress and anxiety, and it's something that I think we should be very careful as well as we start developing a lot of AR and VR, that actually the route to healing is coming into our bodies, not getting out of our bodies. So like very, very important point. I think we can feel better for a moment, but in order to actually consistently feel better, we have to come into our bodies. And then sometimes we do notice sensations that we didn't before. So those can also be reasons that people would report something, but extremely low percentage of reported of any negative features or consequence whatsoever.
Yeah, well, it's such an incredibly dynamic and exciting time, and the field seems like it's completely booming. Where do you see the industry going? And I guess just the role of technology as far as improving mental health.
Yes, I think where we're at today, technology has to play a role. There is no healthcare system on the planet that can on its own pay for and handle all the anxiety and stress that we're seeing. And it is causing so much physical illness and disease. So we need to use technology as I think it's intended, which is technology is as an amplifier or an accelerator. And having worked in technology my entire career, it's accelerated markets, it's accelerated communication, it's also accelerated some bullying, it's accelerated, so that it's just bringing consciousness to how we develop things. And I feel that is one thing where sometimes as well there's been a bit narrow-sightedness, like I live in San Francisco and I work with other entrepreneurs and VCs and techies and think that that's the whole world, and we roll it out and it's like, oops, everyone's using this in a different way than I intended, and maybe that's not helpful. Like we need to understand a little bit more psychology and humans and social psychology and really like care and think about all the different consequences. And there's always going to be impact of various sorts, but for me, I'm very passionate about technology, and I think it's absolutely possible to use it for good. There's a lot of things happening in this field, but also if you look at just a market of, emotional, mental wellness and health, we've like some decades ago, we didn't have fitness industries. It's hard to remember, right? We were
it's a multi-billion-dollar industry now.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, naturally. And then all of a sudden we started to just sit and work. And now we have all these gigantic companies in an enormous industry. And this is happening right now. And it was really accelerated with the pandemic. So from a market perspective, also, I am again in an exponentially growing field. But I also feel now really working with something that is genuinely helping people, and I feel will meet an incredibly large need.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge demand. So tell me just a couple of questions about the actual company. Tell me a little bit about the employee base. How's the culture? What's it like to work there?
Great. So we have sort of 3 hubs. We're a remote team. We were remote first already, so we just had hot desks, and then during the pandemic, we went full remote. We complement that with a lot of deliberate connection. So, we start all our all hands with short breathwork or meditation together. We do share very vulnerably. We have I think there's this, I've had comments as well, even from contractors that work with us, which is like, I feel touched by working with you guys, and just the sort of the humanness. And I think, collaboration is a very important topic of ours. Also transparency. We have a very flat and collaborative culture. And again, I don't see or call myself a leader. I am just one of the cogs or one of the nodes in a network. Like we all have different roles and we fill different purposes. And also we're not a secret services organization. So I think the risks to be over transparent are, not are not big enough to not then share a lot of information so that we all can collaborate. It's not controlling as little gatekeeping as possible. I think we also strive to have diversity in our team in terms of all aspects, way of thinking, etc. And I actually encourage debating. I think it's also something that I find, having lived in 6 countries in the US, that they're a little afraid of debating, a little afraid of having different opinions,
Well,
and
especially West Coast is even more so.
Okay, yeah. So I find that is extremely important. That's how you get things to improve, and to then not take it personally. It's just like, yeah, let's like really drill into this. Like, okay, yeah, and we learn from that. So when that when people feel safe that, okay, I can have a different opinion and we can, see things in a different way, and I get heard, and then as a team we made this connection, then it doesn't become threatening anymore. It's not about okay, I think different and therefore I'm less worthy in the team. So I think those are things that are very important. We have a US hub as a headquarter. We have an R&D little R&D hub in Europe in terms of CTO and my co-founder, a couple of other people, and then we have an amazing team as well in Argentina. So those are sort of 3 main hubs.
And how big is the company right now? Like, how many people do you have, and where are you going as far as growth, and also kind of just overall, where do you see the company going?
Yeah, so we are a hybrid team, and having worked my entire career in fast-growing tech, that's been very common to me to develop. It's like some are in-house, some are out-of-house, some are full-time, some are part-time. But I tend to still retain people, even if people are coming in and out on a project basis. It's like pretty much the same people. So very good, very high return or retention when even when it's part-time or contract-based. We are so with 17 people, and again, it's like, how do I count? Like, where do I cut off? You see what I mean? Because
you've got contractors and part-time people,
and this is
so
okay.
That's incredible, though.
Yeah.
That's a small team for the impact that you've had.
Thank you.
That's amazing. That's really, really cool. And so I'm guessing that you're working your ass off. How do you personally, balance with your own self-care outside of using the device?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I've been near burnout in 2 previous jobs, so I've been on my journey there and learned a lot. I was actually sick as well for a few years. I was still working, but I had extremely low energy and deteriorating health. I was saved by functional medicine, so I'm infinitely grateful for functional medicine. And so I really learned to get into my body, and I think now I feel when I burn adrenaline. So I feel when I'm as you can notice, I'm really high energy and love my job and whatnot. So, but when I I know, okay, I'm actually tired, I need to take a break right now, I typically do it. If it's something that there's a deadline, I need to get this out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to push, but then I need to compensate because I can feel I'm burning adrenaline. And I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of different breathwork practices that I can use for upregulation, downregulation, whatnot. I have Sensate, which is the kind of baseline. If I don't have capacity, brain space, or energy or focus for other practices, like Sensate always works, so that's great. Movement, I have to exercise. Recently, with just closing out the funding, it's been extremely hectic, and I've not been as much as I can, and I actually feel the energy reducing, right? So it's like getting exercise extremely important. I eat healthy. I'm very happy that my boyfriend and I both have healthy lifestyles. Don't actually drink a lot of alcohol. I had definitely in London a lot of being out, drinking cocktails, and going out on the weekend and things like that. So it's also a stage where I don't care so much about it anymore. But I'm not like hyper. I'm not this sort of never. I mean, we'll have a cocktail or a bottle of wine with dinner every now and then. So it's not. I don't feel like
nothing's
it's
too
discipline
rigid.
and rigid. No, it's just a level of self-care that also have come from actually going through being sick and healing and really valuing my body and sensing into the signals and being attentive to what my body needs and what I need. And the one thing I sometimes forget is play. And that is also an important part of life. And like, it's great for people to have small kids or dogs or animals, like they force you to play. But like,
Yes.
I have to kind of remind myself, we have a dog, but I don't take a huge amount to play
No,
with
but
the dog.
I was just listening to something and I can't, oh, what was it? I think it might have been Mel Robbins' podcast.
Mm.
Do you listen to Mel Robbins' podcast?
I haven't. I'm gonna do it now. I
Oh,
know
okay.
her very
Write that up.
well,
Put that
but
on your list.
it's not on my it's not on my
She's amazing.
subscription. Great,
But
yeah.
she talked a lot about play on one of her podcasts. And it is so true because especially when you're running a business, you're just in like execution and drive mode a lot. And it's kind of like, move out of my way. I'm trying to go to a place, a destination versus kind of the journey and the blah, blah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we'll just blast our music and we can think of each other.
Yeah.
And have a dance party.
Exactly. But there are the two sides, right? It's like, because you also need to have the luck and the flow and the inspiration and like, where do thoughts come from? We have to ask ourselves. I'm sitting at my desk and something goes, I should call that person. If I'm just in a lockdown, rigid, working, banging out, I don't hear that. I don't hear that they'll like, you should reach out to this person. So play and space and meditation optimizes that, which actually gives access to a bigger intelligence.
Yes,
whether
and
that
creativity
is
for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Oh, this is fun. I love talking to you. My final question is, what fuels you?
I think I'm deeply driven by a better future. I like solving big problems. I love macro. So again, like I'm not so much a grassroots person. Like I'm really like, I want to solve big macro problems. And I would be a person that could take on an audacious 10-year type of goal if that was the thing. So, and then from an internal perspective, it's growth. The personal growth makes every aspect of my life better with every step forward I take. And so I can't think of anything that's more meaningful, because then I have more capacity for other people. I have more forgiveness. I have more fun. I have more generosity. I have more space. So it's like that the growth and that what I'm doing actually leaves a better world behind. And it's not for legacy. I don't need a stone or a building with my name on it. It's totally innately driven. Just knowing, when I die at the age of 120, that I feel good about it,
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.